Hey guys, what makes you cry?
No more toilet paper.
Yeah, that's fair. Low batteries.
Oh, that
Yep,
is the
yeah,
worst.
pain.
I found spoons that fall behind the oven, never to be seen again. Quite sad.
That's specific.
It's very specific.
Yeah.
Onions with teeth.
Oh, I thought.
We're talking about anime, guys. Anime that makes you cry.
Oh, right.
Right, yeah.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Nope, still the onions.
It's over 9,000!
Configure the language logic interface for Japanese.
Kawaii-Fi.
Kawaii-Fi.
Konnichiwa, and welcome to another episode of Kawaii-Fi Radio, the podcast where we look into the world of anime and manga. I'm your host, Kyle, and joining me are my co-hosts, Coco and Ken.
Hey, we're coasts.
I am
What
a
are
coast.
you doing, guys?
I am coast
How is
man.
everyone?
From
Hello.
coast to coast.
Nice to be a coast.
It is. I haven't had much sleep. This will be an interesting show. We're going to have a lot to talk about, but very quickly, if you are wondering where Kawaii-Fi Quest is, it's getting a bit of a rework, and it's going to come back, but it will be getting its own mini segment in the show going forward instead of at the beginning. So we'll get to that in another bit.
Yes, it seems some people were confused by that, thinking that was our entire podcast. Just
Yeah.
2 hours of that. Oh, dear
I
God.
mean, I mean, like, it's not necessarily a bad idea, but that's a lot more writing than we've been putting in.
Yeah,
so we have to
definitely.
adjust our workload to compensate.
So let's talk about what we've caught up on this past fortnight. And
Yes,
that,
do let's.
firstly, that was Bafuri. I've maxed out my
yes.
defense so I don't get hurt.
You know what? I know that plenty has happened in this anime. Apologies, by the way, I'm flashing off a cold. I know
We're all dying here
yeah,
this week.
right, I know that a lot has happened in this anime, but all I keep thinking back to is that tiny little rabbit thing that like
Usagi-
kept on banging
Usagi-san.
itself against her shield, going bang.
The rabbit apple.
Oh
So
my
cute.
gosh.
Yeah, the monster designs in this show are pretty good. They give Pokemon a run for their money.
I thought I'd
I
feel
would buy a apple rabbit.
Oh,
plushie.
as a pillow?
Totally.
That would be so
Totally.
cute. See, I thought I'd feel bad when it eventually died, but the way that they did it, like, didn't make me feel bad.
Well,
So I was
it's
like, I could
going,
actually
"No!"
go into this game and have the experience and not feel bad about, you know. Whereas if I was to go into Pokemon,
Yeah,
bad.
you'd feel a bit bad. Yeah, I've really enjoyed the show. For those who haven't caught up on it yet, it's another video game MMORPG series
it's
similar
not quite
to
an isekai, is it?
No. It's very similar to Sword Art Online in principle and premise, same as Log Horizon, except without the being trapped in it. It's a lot more comfy.
Not only that, but the game that they are playing is absolutely broken.
Yeah.
The rules for this
Yes.
game are just nuts.
They
This has
keep-
not been balanced.
They keep finding ways to break the game by accident. And it's not a case of someone maliciously trying to do it. She's just playing the game the way she plays it, and she's not a gamer. So they wouldn't expect people to do what she's done.
No.
And that's resulted in her being very OP.
It's worked in her favor, yes.
No, what's interesting? When I was, this is probably showing my age, but SimCity 3 had just come. No, SimCity 2000.
There's 2000 and 3000, yeah.
Yeah.
3000, yeah. SimCity 3000 had just come out, and I went over to my friend's place and was like, oh, look, there's this cool game, and we were playing it, and she'd never played it before. But she was doing better than I was doing, and I had played it a few times. So that's just because I was too rushed. I didn't take my time. And this is what she's doing. She's taking her time with this game. So she's like that friend I had who was kicking ass at SimCity.
Well, there is another MMORPG game out at the moment as well. That is...
yes.
Infinite Dendrogram.
Yeah, I'm not sure what a dendrogram is, but it does make me think of dandruff.
Maybe it's a diagram with, I
Robots?
was going to say 10 sides, but that's Deca.
Nendroids in a dodecahedron.
No.
Maybe.
But yes,
mean,
this anime is kind of another one of your sort of standard MMO isekai things, except they can exit the game. It
Which is
plays
nice.
by other rules that are very, very fast and loose with logic and reality.
Yeah. It's more interested in telling the story than grounding itself in the rules, which, you know,
Yes.
to be honest, I think works well for it. It's not a case where it needs to be hampered by those rules. And let's be honest, almost every one of these MMORPG games does have that power fantasy attached to it in some regard.
Yeah, you gotta forgive it that. And this one sort of joins into that, especially in the few episodes we've caught up to where he's...
Episode 4 in particular was particularly full on.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. But I can highly recommend watching both of them. But Bofira in particular is just... It's like...
It's lovely.
It's if you combined Sword Art Online and Eurocamp.
Yeah,
it's probably
I can
the
see
only
that.
way
if
I
you
can
got the characters from
explain it.
Eurocamp playing a game.
Yeah, exactly.
I would watch the heck out of that. Japan,
I would too.
get on that, please.
Please do. So we should probably talk about what this episode is all about, seeing as we've been talking about crying. And we are talking about anime that tugs at the heartstrings.
Sorry, everyone.
Jerks a tear. Leaves you a sopping
You
mess.
are having this up,
I
aren't
really
you?
am. So we're talking from haunting tales of the war to heartbreaking romances. There's so many stories that can have a profound impact on us. And we've got
Yes.
1 film and 2 series to talk about this episode. Now, we won't be covering, obviously, every single one.
Because
there are
that
so
would
many
just be
of
too
them.
much for us to
But we're going to
ingest.
do...
Yeah, some of us
these
cannot
3.
afford that therapyville.
No. And hey, if you're enjoying what you're hearing so far, consider hitting that subscribe button and join us for our future episodes and videos that are coming out as well. But before we dig into this episode, it's time for the anime news.
Making headlines.
Really?
Sort of.
Anime news.
More slime and Buksakai on the way, and the mass dropping of inappropriate anime. This is Kawaii-Fi Anime News. The Tokyo Anime Film Festival has announced this year's winners of its Animation of the Year awards this week, with some familiar names taking home some prizes. The awards looked at over 400 animated works which debuted between October 2018 to September 2019, before shortlisting just 80 of them and 20 films. Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba won the television category, while Weathering with You won the animated film category. Weathering with You director Makoto Shinkai also took out the director award. The Tokyo Anime Film Festival will take place from March 13 to 16. Questionable anime series Interspecies Reviewers has been dropped by several streaming services and TV stations this week in what appears to be a reaction to the series' upcoming 5th episode. Funimation and Amazon Prime have removed the series from their catalogues completely, while Wacom Nordic and Japanese station Tokyo MX have cancelled airing any more of the series. Anime Lab in Australia and New Zealand, now part of Funimation, say they will continue to stream the service, though will delay it as it adjusts the source of materials. The series premiered in January, with some critics questioning why the series was released as a normal anime, considering its content and subject matter. Kadokawa has announced college teasing series Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out is getting an anime series this July. The series focuses on the character Sakurai Shinichi, who wants to be just a peaceful and quiet life. However, his underclassman, Uzaki Hana, wants to hang out and tease him, believing he has no friends and can't take care of himself. The series is being animated at Studio Engi, which animated last year's Kimono Michi. Book-loving isekai series Ascendance of a Bookworm will be returning to our screens this year, with part 2 of the anime confirmed to be airing in April. The series' official website confirmed the series' second part with a preview for the upcoming arc, and the series is now set to run for 12 episodes. The show follows a book-loving college girl who is reincarnated into a fantasy world, but is disheartened to learn the world has low literacy and books are rare. She sets out to make her own books so she can fulfill her desire to be a librarian. The second season of Isekai series That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime has been given a release date, with the Slimy series continuing in autumn anime season this year. Studio 8-Bit will again produce the series, with the cast and crew expected to reprise their roles. The series also has 3 OADs on the way this year, which will be bundled with the manga's 14th, 15th and 16th volumes. These OADs will be an original 3-part story written by series creator Fuse, called Side Story Rimuru's Splendid Teacher Life. Heading to the bookshelves, and Demon Slayer has hit several massive milestones this week, becoming the first manga in history to take every spot on Oricon's weekly top 10 manga chart. The series also occupies the top 18 spots of the chart, in fact, and is estimated to have earned 1.23 billion yen in just the week of January 27 to February 2nd, from just physical publications, including CDs, DVDs, and Blu-ray sales. The franchise's novel series, only released last year, was also announced as Jump's novel's fastest to reach 1 million copies in circulation, following a reprint this month. And the manga for this season's breakout show, Keep Your Hands Off Aizuken, has seen a surge in sales, with more than 500,000 copies now in print. The anime's success has saw urgent reprints of the series' 5 volumes released, with a massive rise in demand for the series. The 5th volume of the series was only released in the past fortnight. And quickly, in dub news, Funimation are now streaming the English dub of Magio Record Quella Magi Madoka Magica Side Story. More casts have been announced for the Demon Slayer English dub, with a trailer now available on Aniplex's YouTube channel. Crunchyroll have also added the dub of Ancient Magus Bride to their catalogue, and they've also added the dubs for both seasons of New Game. And that's your anime news for the week ending February 9, 2019.
Well, I am really happy about Aizuken.
Yes.
So happy.
Man, that is just it's growing in popularity, isn't it?
It is, and it's a really lovely series. I was quite surprised.
I love it.
I imagine both of you are quite excited about Ascendance of a Bookworm Season 2.
Oh, yes. That is... Oh,
more
I'm so
comfy
glad.
isekai is always good isekai.
And even though it's like, you know, it's a little... She sometimes got ill, and that wasn't very comfy. The rest of it was comfy. And now...
that wasn't
now
comfy,
she
no.
knows why she's gotten ill, and she's not going to get any more ill, and it's going to be comfy AF.
Oh, for me, it's also the world building. It's a fascinating kind of fantasy world. Every other one has like giant frogs or goblins and stuff, and the rest of it's just sort of like your standard format. This has crystal trees which flower with fruit, and like monstrous vines which can turn into like monster trees and devour the landscape. It's like
it's kind of a very imaginative way of building the world, and the storytelling for it's quite nice as well.
I want to know more.
It might come across as a fairly simplistic show, but there's a lot of depth to it the more you watch.
Aye.
Now, I'm very excited about Uzaki-chan getting
this is
adapted.
something you've been reading,
I
isn't
have been reading the manga for this for about a year now, and I'm hooked on it. I love it. It's every time it comes out each month, I'm just like, yes.
This seems to be a thing for you. You seem to pick up on manga of this kind of storyline. There's Teasing Master Takagi. What was the other one? It was quite recent.
You like the adorable stuff, don't you?
I do. Please Don't Tease Me Nagatoro.
That's the one,
And then
yes.
there's also another one which is...
Domestic Girlfriend?
Well, there's domestic. There's domestic dumpfire. And there's also... I can't remember the name of it, but it's about a sort of Japanese gal girl who's teasing her senpai. Well, not senpai, actually. They're the same age and the same class, but he's quite nerdy looking, and she's obviously, her mum's a hairdresser, and she's quite fashion conscious. It's really quite sweet. And the most recent chapter, they went on a date, and it's like, yes.
Oh, that's lovely.
Because I'm a massive softie and don't care. But we do have to move on and start talking about stuff that's going to make us bawl our eyes out and be sad and lie on the floor for days on end.
If we must.
Kawaii-Fi Radio.
I think I watched that as a kid.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Back catalogue.
So where should we begin?
Well, I think it's probably safe to say that we have to talk about probably one of the first anime that made me cry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Angel Beats.
Oh,
I think you introduced me to this one a little after you'd watched it.
Yeah. I inflicted this pain on others.
Yes, he also inflicted it on me.
I did. And I sat there and watched it and wept manfully.
Don't get me wrong. This isn't something that you just cruelly inflict on your friends because of sadism.
It's a beautiful story.
Not just beautiful. It is just fantastic. It is funny. It's
And I like how
action-packed.
they don't try to make it longer just for the sake of it. They pack the story in and it's told well.
But the thing is, the main criticism of the series is that it's too short.
Oh.
It was going to be longer.
Yeah, because they've left some characters undeveloped. But to be honest, if you're watching it and you know it's 12 episodes, you don't feel bad about that.
Yeah.
If it was going to be longer originally, I would have preferred that, don't get me wrong.
There was a couple of references to it being shortened down because of the tsunami, but I couldn't actually find anything to completely verify that. There was the a really big one back in 2011, but this was
this was
before
April.
it.
This was April 2010, so I think
That's right.
Maybe there was some situation. So,
okay, but story time.
yes, tell us about Angel Beats.
All right, so picture the scene. The first few minutes of this show pretty much like sum up exactly what's going on to a degree. So, you have your main guy, Otonashi. He wakes up outside of a high school.
Is he late?
No, it's the dead of night. He's not late. He is in fact dead. According to the woman on his left, who is a schoolgirl packing a really, really big sniper rifle.
Mm-hmm.
She is aiming down at the field at another young girl, little white-haired girl named Angel. She informs him that he's dead. This is the afterlife, a sort of limbo where like people with unfulfilled lives have gone, and that they are rebelling against the system by fighting that girl, Angel.
Oh.
Now, Otonashi, for one thing, he has amnesia, so all of this is a little bit confusing, but he's also got a bit of logic to him saying, no, I can't believe any of this.
So he can't remember how he got there?
No,
Nope.
he can't remember his past life or anything else.
But he's really not having it, what this girl Yuri is saying. So he just stands up, walks down into the field right up to Angel and says, okay, look, there's a girl up there with a gun. She's aiming at you. Is everything okay here? And Angel stabs him through the chest and kills him. But he gets better.
He gets better.
See,
because
this is a world where this is a sort of a limbo where you can be crushed, killed, destroyed, strangled, slaughtered, cut into little bit of pieces, and you'll get better. There's
That
no
would be a
permanent
nice
death.
world.
Yeah, there's no permanent death. It's an interesting story the way it's told as well, because it's got a very strong musical element to it as well.
The music for this is so strong. There is a constant presence of a band called Girls Dead Monster. They're sort of part of their distraction element, part of like a bunch of their schemes and heists.
And a fun fact about Girls Dead Monster, they were fronted by two singers. Initially, a girl called Marina, who's a J-pop singer, and then Lisa.
One of
this
your
was
favorites.
one of her first roles in anime.
Wow,
Wonderful.
I
Yeah.
didn't actually know that.
Yeah, so this is one of her earliest roles, and it was almost a breakout role for her as far as being involved in anime and music.
And she's been
outside of
involved
it.
in a lot of things since.
Oh, well, she most recently Demon Slayer and Sword Art Online's most recent openings as well. So it says a lot about the staying power, because this is a decade ago, this anime. So
And even to that end, like it is a decade-old anime, and the animation holds up to this very day.
it does. It was done by PA Works though, so you kind of expect that high standard from them.
It was
yeah.
beautiful, wasn't it? I loved the colours that they used.
They're also, whenever there's a combat style scene, it's always been very well animated. The movement and flow.
It's very smooth, isn't
very
it?
smooth.
Yes, that part can get a bit confusing. It's like all of these school students in a high school settings are packing sniper rifles, ARGs, LMGs, like a lot of like heavy artillery. Turns out that this world has sort of video game-ish elements to it. It has NPC students and teachers, and there are sort of rules and code that you can sort of break to create weapons with which to fight this mysterious, creepy angel
almost like
lady.
just reforging pieces of the world into other elements.
So,
Exactly.
So the reason why they're all here is to pass over, isn't it?
Essentially, they're meant to. It doesn't really specify at the start of the story, but they are in limbo, and they don't necessarily agree with being there.
No.
Yes, it's they've died in sort of tragic, unfortunate circumstances. They are all young people, and every one of them has just the saddest of stories.
Oh yeah.
And so they're sort of like, they're angry at the god that would sort of like set them in this sort of a situation. So this is sort of like their act of rebellion. If they play along with the school life and sort of have the fulfilled childhood they didn't have, as this sort of weird world is there for, then they will vanish.
Yeah,
almost.
they'll move on, if you will.
Yeah.
Now,
And a few people, like, I won't say which characters, but a few characters sort of do step into the light as far as that goes later, and it is always just
it's heart-wrenching.
heartbreak.
It really is. This was actually an original anime. There was no manga source material or anything like that. They just went, let's make this.
a manga source did come after the fact,
Well,
though, because
4 manga series, a series of short stories, 2 internet radio shows, and an episodic visual novel which has 6
Right.
parts.
Radio show.
Yeah, they turned it into a multimedia empire. The most recent one came out in 2015, was the episodic novel it started. I believe the 3rd chapter just dropped. I could be wrong. I need to double check.
it's mostly
that.
because the director Kishi Seiji, he was like enormously unhappy with the length of it. He wanted it to be longer. He wanted to go into more detail and more of the stories of these characters. And a few of them needed stories.
They did.
There's like some main characters, about 5 or 6 tops. There's also a bunch of sort of side characters. One of them is an eternal enigma, and I wish to know his story. TK, yes.
Yeah.
It's sort of like you have all these other characters who have their strange quirks and flaws. One of them is the glasses guy, but because he has glasses, he's stupid.
Yeah.
But
Which is against the grain of anime
totally
norms.
against the rules. But then you have TK. He's
TK is technically just... I think TK is an English student.
an exchange student or something?
Exchange student who's ended up there somehow.
He speaks only in song titles, in
Yeah.
English as well. It's like,
Yep.
show me your moves. Get
Yeah.
chance and luck. Knocking on heaven's door. It's just like...
It's so good.
And like all the characters are just like, we don't know why he's like that. What is he saying? Why is he saying that?
He's always about that dancing and raves.
And that's
I'll be
interesting. It contrasts the sad moments with your normal school life.
Normal
drama.
in a sort of a relative term, but
Yeah.
yes.
Well, not exactly, and like it's funny as well. And
The humor sort of sets up like what's going to happen next, like all of this humor and all these like crazy interactions, and then like a heartbreaking revelation comes. A twist at the end of every episode basically will come and just sort of like, oh, that hurts.
Yeah,
That really hurts.
I feel
And
like
then they'll have
yeah.
TK or someone else narrating the outro, and it takes away that seriousness
I
as well.
feel like it starts like when I watched it, I thought it was a different genre to what genre I felt it was when it finished. So
Very
I
much so.
didn't-
Like
Yeah.
The ending of the series is very heartbreaking. There are 2 OVAs, one which is a set of side stories, and from memory, then there's also the one which there's 2 very short ones, which are almost like an epilogue to the story.
And not only that, an alternative ending.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen the alternative ending yet.
It's not happier. It is in fact sadder.
What? What?
Yeah,
What?
my research of that was
No,
A sad night.
I think I'm pretty sure that they're both prologue stories and not alternative endings. It's just showing you where the characters end up at the end. But no, I'm wrong.
No, you are wrong.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
one
have
of
to watch
them
this
is like a
afterwards.
very, very final ending, and the other one is a very well, you could lead into a second series with it if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's the one I've seen.
But
So
it's like
So would the second series be in the same spot?
yeah, it would. It would continue on exactly
See-
as before, but having one of the other characters there as sort of, I guess, filling a guidance type role.
I was wondering. So all of these people are high school age, aren't they?
Yep.
They do seem to be, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if Purgatory just changes for whichever demographic that person is in. Say if they were a middle-aged salaryman, maybe
Changing
Purgatory
to,
would be an office
it
environment.
would turn into a relaxed office environment where they meet their like friends and have beers and otherwise have like a nice job life.
I was going to say, would it be like a skewers bar or something where they're just all there going, I'll have some
Doing a
more
mixer.
yucky.
Oh, you know what? I'd be okay with that afterlife. That sounds like an
I
awesome
could go
afterlife.
for takoyaki in the
Oh,
afterlife.
I could do takoyaki.
I could go takoyaki now.
You
Japanese
can always go takoyaki.
Yes, I do
Japanese
love
bars
it.
are awesome.
They are.
If anyone wants to buy me something to thank me for being such an awesome podcast,
Like,
host,
subscribe, and send takoyaki.
yes, that's
So-
on the table.
So Angel Beats came out in April 2010. It ran for 13 episodes plus those 2 OVAs on the end. I'm pretty sure it's on Crunchyroll, but I'd have to go and double check. But you can still find it kicking around, and most, I believe Funimation were involved. No, actually, it was PA Works. So I'm
Yes,
pretty sure
it was
that
PA.
there is a dub out there of it. Under PA Works,
We'll
and
have to find it.
well, we've got it. I've got it on the shelf in the other room. Ah.
Yeah, it's in the rest of the stacks of all
it's
the
in the
anime
stack.
we've collected.
The stack. But the dub is quite good. I'm not sure if the dub's available online, but I do know definitely that the sub version is. So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. It's only, as we said, those 13 episodes and the 2 OVAs, so you can probably crack through it in a day if
And
you've got the time.
This is a great show. Go check it out.
And alongside the crying, you will enjoy it.
Yeah.
So
like
it's got
it's not a case of just being miserable. It's
it's
a
got a
truly
wide-
memorable show.
Yeah, it's a wide
And as
entertainment
just
value.
there's sort of like situations. It's sort of like Friends or Saturday Night Live, where you just sort of remember that one bit, that one sort of situation that dominated an episode. Like one of them was that they needed to create distractions, and all I'll say is that their desks get rocket boosters.
Yeah. Or when TK sacrifices himself for that one particular scene.
I'll be
yes,
back.
that was beautiful.
Just hilarious.
Brilliant.
Good job, because you know they couldn't die. You just couldn't take it seriously. You're like, why did you do that? That was
Maybe
so
he just
pointless.
wanted to.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
it's
like-
something he always wanted to do in life.
I wanted to be a hero.
As is sort of like the nature of this anime. Like the music comes up, it feels like it's a dramatic moment, but then like once the sacrifice is done, everyone just sort of walks by casually.
They're
It's
just like, whatever, man. You'll be fine.
You'll be back.
You'll be fine.
You'll manage.
So let's. Unfortunately, we do have to go to something a bit sadder.
This was already sad.
Yeah, this is gonna really.
This is
drop
wonderful,
into the
though.
depth. It's a
It is
beautiful
wonderful.
show, beautiful film, but it's bloody sad.
Kawaii-Fi Radio. We'll be there on time. There's 20 minutes of ads.
Cinema Club.
So we are talking about Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh.
We had been dreading this, hadn't we? 'Cause
We have
we've-
all, at some point in the past decade, tried to watch it.
or caught glimpses
Caught
of it.
glimpses
or
of it and just
been
went,
told.
nope.
Yeah.
I watched it to a point ages ago, but it was after I saw the fate of one of the parents, and I was just like, oh, no thanks.
The first I saw of it was AMV Hell.
Oh no!
And
that's
that
little,
was that set it up, to be
Yeah,
honest.
yeah.
So
Oh, that was the one where it's I made this song to depress
Yes.
you.
And when this song's done, you'll be depressed too.
So this is a Studio Ghibli production. It was directed by Takahata Isao, who we recently lost in the last few years.
Yeah, it was a shame.
He also wrote the screenplay. Now, Grave of the Fireflies, if you aren't aware, is a story of two children called Seita and Setsuko. Seita is 14 and Setsuko is 4. And they're the children of a general living in Japan during the last couple months of the war.
It's
The prologue to this film is a death. It's the death of Seita, who was the only one of the family left at this point.
yeah.
It sets the scene.
It really does a good job with its storytelling because
Yeah.
it tells you exactly what to expect in the first few minutes of that film.
It wasn't
Absolutely.
a quick death.
No, it's not, and it's completely avoidable as well, which is
Yeah.
the main theme of the film.
It's
the
very
film-
frustrating.
The film is not anti-war. It's not about war. It's about how war changes people.
And that was a
And-
big thing that some of the critics in the West said. They were like, this is an anti-war film. And the director and writer came out and said, no, look, it's not about being anti-war. It's about telling a tale. Because this is based on a semi-autobiographical short story of the same name, which
Absolutely.
is set during World War II,
Yeah.
during the firebombing of Kobe in 1945.
After the prologue, where we watch Seita pass, we arrive at their house. So we go back to when he and his mother and Setsuko are preparing to leave because the firebombers are going to attack. They take shelter. Seita takes Setsuko on his back, runs away. And after the bombers pass, they go to find the mother, who has unfortunately been very badly hurt by the firebombs and who passes away shortly after.
It's look, this
this
is
is
a film
difficult
which
stuff.
you very quickly start to see the horror of war as it is.
The
And
confrontation and the
it's-
helplessness and stuff.
And you don't see any fighting.
No,
You
that's
see
the
these
interesting
people running from it. You can see them dealing with it. You can see how they're managing it. And what's important is that you see the psychological toll that
This,
it takes
this is
on
the
them.
civilian view of war. We're so used to seeing, like in films like the recent one, they had 1945 and they had
1914, yes.
1914, sorry, and they also had the one for the storming of Normandy and stuff like that. We're
Dunkirk,
so used to
yeah.
seeing
Downfall.
and
was,
Downfall.
Was a
We're so
good
used
one.
to seeing the military angle, not the civilian angle during
and
a war.
this is just a wonderful retelling because this is from Seita's point of view, and Seita, after he passes in the prologue, you see him reappear as a spirit with his sister, and they get on a train and start to take a journey. So that's interesting to see sort of where they're going and where they reappear during the film. Now, the writer of this story did he underwent hardship during the war, as everyone did, but he lost his little sister.
And his older sister.
Yes. And he is widely known that he wrote Grave of the Fireflies in a way to sort of move on, like sort of deal with their deaths, because he had them on their conscience. And apparently so many people approached him for a live action film.
Yeah.
Oh, God, no.
But he was like, look, contemporary children couldn't act this.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't see it myself, though I'm sure there are plenty of talented child actors out there. But when Takahata approached him and showed him the storyboards, the author just realised that animated films, that in an animated form, this could work, and it was probably the only way it would work.
It's an incredible visual story. Like this is, we're so used to seeing stories which are filled with, gags and jokes and so forth.
Well,
and
not to mention this is a Studio Ghibli production. I mean, this came out in the same year as Totoro, I believe.
Yes.
Which is the most
actually,
innocent and adorable thing you've ever seen.
Fun fact, this was a double feature with Totoro because they didn't think Totoro would succeed.
Yes.
So you had Grave of the Fireflies first, Totoro second.
I mean, that's kind of nice.
Billed as a feature for families and children. It's...
No.
I wouldn't... I think I said a few episodes ago about Neon Genesis's writer, Hideaki Anno, saying that he really wanted to, with Neon Genesis, the reason he started making it a lot darker was he wanted children to be aware of the cruelty and danger of the world. And this kind of rings a similar thing. It's saying, look, this is the horrors that have happened.
But to build something like that for children, Japan, do we need to have a talk?
We do.
So I don't think I wouldn't say that this is a film for children to watch until they're definitely older.
Oh, yeah.
What happens after they find their mother and have to bury her is they are taken in by an aunt who at first is very welcoming and, helpful. But as time passes, she begins to see them as a burden to her own family and sort of, takes digs at Seita. Just to confirm, during the wartime, Japanese high school students were able to start working and usually did from age 14, which is his age. But Seita needs to look after his sister first. That's his priority. He doesn't,
that's
he's
what
not
he's been
going to
told
go
to do.
away. Yeah, exactly. Over time, the fact that the aunt just sort of keeps, starts to hide food from them, and he's the son of a military captain or a general. He's got pride, and so with his pride intact, he takes Setsuko and they leave.
His pride is one of his biggest weaknesses in all seriousness, because
which may be another theme of the film.
Yeah, when you think back to what happened to Japan during the war, it's horrible, but also the opposite side of they'd done horrible things as far as the military was concerned in China.
War
and
is just
Korea.
it does awful things to people on all sides.
It's awful,
and it brings out the worst.
It does, but it says a lot about how much war has changed since then. Back then, there was an attack on civilians. You have a look at the bombing in London, you have a look at the bombings in Japan, you have a look at what happened throughout Europe. It was about attacking the civilians, whereas now it's a lot more about, regimes versus military might versus, whatever other flag they're hanging behind, without so much as a focus on a civilian attack. I mean, obviously there are exceptions with, certain attack types. But
Yeah.
we've moved away from the let's just wipe out the other nation to more of let's change the way that country runs.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is very much founded in that older tradition of wiping out the country. It's a focus on destroying, like, what's it, scorched earth strategy.
It's probably I believe that the World War II was the last example of, wiping people. That philosophy being so widely used. But of course, like, I'm not a war historian. I may be wrong. Please let us know. If you'd like to add any extra comments or any historical facts, we'd love to hear them.
I'd love to hear them.
If you'd like to commiserate on us and for having to watch this.
So
Still can't believe that was double billed with Totoro.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine
you'd
watching
wanna put
that
it first.
and then watching Totoro afterwards.
You need that to make yourself feel happy.
Now, I won't go through the entire film.
Yes.
But after they leave the aunt, Seta finds an abandoned bomb shelter and sort of makes a little home for him and Setsuko. However, it's very hard to keep them both fed.
Yeah.
And Setsuko becomes increasingly more ill because of it. And here is a point that I want to make. It is all about the psychological effect of war and how people... It's contrasted in a few different ways. Like, for example, the doctors, when they are trying to save the mother versus when the mother has passed away, what their attitudes are, she's gone... She's no longer a person. It's garbage to be thrown out.
Yeah.
And you see this slow change with the aunt as well. I believe there was a live-action film made.
Yes, and this, I believe, is actually instead told from the aunt's daughter's perspective, and it's showing how war can change a person. So essentially taking the aunt from before the war being a loving, caring person, would always take people in, to someone who becomes cold and self-interested and focused.
And to be fair, it's not entirely not understandable either with rationing and the complete lack of resources. Taking care of more people in your house would become stressful and drive people to become colder.
Yeah,
but
the frustrating part of the whole equation being is that they sold some of the mum's, valuable things to actually provide food for everyone in the house. And the aunt takes it quite for granted, same thing, like they brought a load of food with them. They helped them actually in the beginning, and that's all goes out the window as soon as there's a potential burden because of the stress of the situation. And it's awful to see, because you think, well, they're family, you should, you're in a difficult time, you'd think it's a time when people would, band together and help each other out and look for ways that they can sort out.
That was really before attitudes fully changed.
Some people did, there are stories about people during the war who did look out for others, but it's in a life or death situation like that. You'd understand. Interestingly, what I've noticed is, like, at one point when they go to buy an oven, they also get an umbrella. Now, I feel like the umbrella was a visual metaphor because it's the round umbrella and it's tattered. What's the flag of Japan?
Yeah, the round circle.
I feel like the rising sun on the flag is mirrored in the umbrella, and this is the
you might
effect
have something there
on the country, because the effect on its people.
It definitely could serve as a metaphor for that. If only they'd made the umbrella definitely red, because then it would have been a perfect example.
I feel like that would have been too
because it was orange.
Yeah,
orange.
it was
could have been red and just faded out.
Yeah, that's true.
Could have been,
that's
yeah.
True,
now, what did you guys feel was the most poignant part of the film for each of you?
This is a film which the whole way through there are moments of anguish and pain. Like, you feel it in your chest. You go, that's not fair. I wish I could help,
I think I can pick a moment. The beach scene. They go to the beach and just have themselves a nice time. He's trying to distract his little sister from the horrors of the war. And she sort of wanders off to between some boats and finds a body covered in a straw mat. And so he stops her in time and sort of shoos her away from it. But for me, that was very...
I liked how
very pointed.
I liked how he did it as well.
Yeah.
He was like, don't look at that. Come over here.
Yeah.
It was just quick. And
I also found the point when she revealed that she knew the mum had passed away. and he just broke down. I thought that was a very good example of him showing that all this time he'd been holding everything in and putting up a front for her. And that was, if he told her, it would all come apart.
Yeah.
And the fact that, she knew made it, and how she found out made it really awful and explained her behaviour.
I guess that would have taken off some stress from his shoulders. Like it's something he doesn't have to hide anymore, so he could grieve about it.
Yeah.
The part that moved me most was at the end. And I can't really can we give spoilers? I feel like we can discuss the end.
We want to avoid too many spoilers, but I think this, like, you kind of already know from the beginning how it's going to end.
Yeah. So all throughout this film, I felt like I was feeling alongside Sato, and I felt like he's an optimist. He's trying, always trying. He's seeing the possibilities instead of the not like the cut-offs. And I just found that as they travel through the film, the beautiful scenery, such a stark contrast to the broken spirits and lost humanity of all of the supporting characters in the film, as well as the children's struggle. But in the last scene, where Sato and Setsuko's spirits sit on a bench overlooking the nighttime modern, lit up city of I believe it's Kobe, but it may be Tokyo. I'm not completely sure.
I'm pretty sure it's Kobe.
I just felt it was absolutely stunning. That was the moment that moved me. It was just so beautiful.
It's just it's also quite sad when you think about it, because it means that they're, as far as the story's concerned, their spirits lingered there.
They could have had some happiness. They could have been saved during the wartime, but other people around them were just like, no, I'm keeping this food. One thing I noticed, which I think I pointed out to you guys, was that I noticed that the outlines were brown, and that is actually something new. So normally in outlines you'll get black, so they're set.
Sort of the uncolored line art for a scene.
So whenever black was used, it was only used when it was absolutely necessary, apparently. The color coordinator said that this was done to give the film a softer feel, and it's a technique that had never been used in an anime before, sort of done on a challenge. So when you watch it, you'll sort of notice there's this little... It's really
the lines
lovely.
are a bit softer
yes.
because of that brown color. It doesn't feel, it feels like everything is connected, if that makes sense, as opposed to like very set layers.
Yeah, it sort of blends in with the background without sort of like completely being enveloped by it.
And the background for a lot of the film is absolutely stunning.
Well, it's to be expected of Ghibli, and their craft only improves with every generation.
But even like back in that day, animators didn't animate Japanese countryside backgrounds. They normally went overseas to study that. So this is one thing that the author really, really appreciated.
Was the fact that they actually used Japanese countryside.
That it looked like what he remembered.
Wow.
So honestly, like, this film is harrowing.
It is.
It is harrowing to get through, but it is beautiful. And
I think it's
beauty must be seen.
People do need to see, even if it's just once. This isn't like Totoro or Spirited Away where you're going to go, oh, I want to watch that again, I want to watch it again. But you'll see it, and you do take away something from it.
It'll have its effect, and then you can move on.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I feel like it's not a film that makes you cry because it's just non-stop sad. I feel like it's a film that makes you cry because it moves you.
Yeah.
And in many different ways.
Yeah. Well, you can catch all the Ghibli films on Netflix, and they're coming there over the next 3 months. Or if you are in North America, it's going to be on HBO Max, I believe. I'm not sure when it lands on there, though. But we do need to get on to our final one for making us cry. We'll be back in just a moment.
Kawaii-Fi Radio.
I think I watched that as a kid.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Back Catalogue.
And this next one is a bit more recent. It's actually from 2017.
Oh, wow.
And
that
it's
is-
Tsuki Gai Kirei, As the Moon, So Beautiful. And
a lovely
this
title.
is a original romance anime produced by Studio Feel.
So what kind of horrors of war and like psychological trauma are we dealing with this time?
Well, it's a coming-of-age story following two junior high students and their struggles of maintaining their relationships.
And like, no, wait, no, that what horrible things happen?
Heartbreak.
Does the struggle end in fruition?
Let me talk you through it. Okay, let's not jump right to the end. Okay.
I need good things.
Yes, you watched this
Happiness.
with me, and Kenny, I think you caught the latter half with
Yes, I
us
did.
when Coco was over watching it.
Yes, that's right.
So this is essentially the story of two kids. A new school year comes around and a new crowd of classmates. So that means for the final year of junior high school, aspiring writer Azumi Katoro and track team member Mizuno Akane end up in the same class. Though initially they've been complete strangers, a few chance encounters stir an innocent desire within their hearts. A yearning gaze, a fluttering heart, the hallmarks of young love slip into their lives as fate brings their path to a crossing.
I love that. In high school, that was just so cute.
However, though love is patient and love is kind, Kotaro and Akane discover it is not always straightforward. Despite the comfort they find in each other's companies, heartache and anxiety come hand in hand with pursuing the feelings in their hearts. With the uncertainty of how the other truly feels, as well as the competing affections of those around them, the road ahead remains unclear. Even so, under the shining light of a beautiful full moon, Kotaro gathers his courage to ask Akane a single question, one that will change their relationship forever. So,
I'm trying to think of something funny to say for the question, but I can't think of anything. Kenny?
do
Can
you
think
like
of any?
pineapple on pizza?
How good are mushrooms?
Onions with tea.
No! So,
Mushrooms
look,
are good, though.
This is
Mushrooms are
a pure coming-of-age romance story.
And it's a pretty popular genre in Japan.
It
It's
is.
like we see it often because it's sort of aimed at a certain demographic who are going
But
through similar
often
stuff.
the thing is that most of these stories don't end in fruition with the characters getting together. It's, like the Harriman way, where it just continues on and no one is ever picked.
You
This
mean like
is-
Nisekoi?
Don't get me started on this.
Would you call? I mean, that's somewhat school life, but it's a lot of weird. This is very much more grounded and realistic.
This is a lot more about sharing a story of a love as opposed to sharing a story pursuing love. So in this case, it's, as I said, coming age story. It showcases a beautiful example of first love and explores the challenges in communicating and balancing your life goals with your desire to be with someone. And it's something that, anyone in a relationship will have experienced at some point where, you've got something you want to do, but your partner doesn't want to do it, or vice versa. There can be occasions in relationships where that happens. And this is kind of exploring that when they're at a young age, they're only in middle high, not, senior high school, and, their paths could diverge. And it's looking at how that
How they
impacts
manage
on their
it.
relationship, how they manage it, how they live, how they work through it. And I feel it's beautiful because the first few episodes really build up to that, the confession story before then showing the relationship and the challenges that they had at such a young age when they don't know anything outside of that relationship, that first love. So it really struck a chord with me and I loved it.
It was beautiful.
And I couldn't stop watching it.
What most struck the chord with me was the art.
It's incredible.
Sweet mother of Betty White. It is amazing.
It really is.
Oh, it's just-
Feel do occasionally pump out a couple of number twos, but
Okay.
For example.
I'm not going to go there. But usually they tend to get their hands on really good content or create really good content. And with this being an original as well, it's quite impressive that it's come from that. The title is actually a shortening of a common Japanese phrase, which is Tsuki ga Kirei desu ne, which translates as "the moon is beautiful, isn't it?" And this actually has a cultural translation to also mean "I love you" or daisuki. And it's a phrase that was coined by a Meiji-era novelist and teacher, Natsumi Soseki, since he believed that two people in love do not actually need direct words to convey their feelings. So in Japan,
agree.
Sosuke is considered the greatest writer in modern Japanese history.
Wow.
So, and I believe he might have served as inspiration for Kotaru's character, who also wants to become a writer. And he also then, says, I also like this famous writer who's one of the most famous in the modern era. So
do I need to add writers to the stack of books I've got now?
Possibly.
But
it's a really beautiful film. I mean, there's series. It could be a beautiful film too. But there's a strong presence of Line, which is a popular Japanese messaging app akin to WhatsApp and with extra functionality. But it's the main way that people in Japan communicate with each other. You see it appear in many other animes.
This is sort of like a modern sort of school life one built for the modern audience.
Yeah.
So the presence of actual use of social media to such an extent is actually it makes it more grounded. As I said, it's kind of refreshing.
It's similar to how when we were watching Carol and Tuesday, their use of Instagram, but the modern, the space age version of it,
or Eurocamp, where they're constantly texting each other as well.
Exactly, and they're using Line in Eurocamp as well. So there you go. But it really showcases a lot of different aspects of what a modern relationship in high school, lower high school, middle school.
Upper middle lower school,
junior high school can be like. Still get confused
Upper
by that
junior
because
high
there's so many.
Yes.
It does end on quite a sad note, but through the last episode's ending credits, you'll feel quite uplifted as you see both of the parties' lives play out over the years that follow through a sort of collage of photos and quick animations. And it's, you go through the ups and downs throughout the series and you get this beautiful ending where you feel very satisfied with how it plays out.
That really was just sort of like the climax of the film, I'll say, because it gave you all of this extra story without saying a single word. I mean, granted, the soundtrack was going and the singing's beautiful and stuff like that, but it told you this entire other generation-spanning tale of these people. Didn't say a damn word.
And it was amazing.
There's an artist I've been following on ArtStation. It's sort of just like a concept art sharing site. He has told this entire sort of comic story. There's no dialogue whatsoever, but I wish I could write the way he doesn't.
Yep.
I love the way you put that.
There's actually also a collection of unaired comedic shorts that were released with the show's box set.
Nice.
I haven't seen them because I watched it when it was coming out and streamed it.
We need to get the box set.
Need to get the box set, which I believe Funimation did the English dub for. So obviously all Funimation's groups that will stock it. It's actually currently on an 8.27 on Mal. And there's a lot of people. There's a lot of love from the anime community for this one. It's in the top 300 anime of all time according to the site's ranking system.
That's quite hefty.
Yeah. But obviously there will be people who dislike it. People who didn't have any form of romance in high school or don't like the romance genre in particular won't necessarily like it.
They won't understand.
Well, some people on the comment section are saying, "Oh, it's boring." And I'm sitting there going, "What part? Like, if you didn't come here for a coming of age drama, then what did you come for? Because if you're just looking,
he was hoping he'd get hit by a truck and then transported to another world where he has a magic sword
and a harem of cat girls,
and then he would face the final boss." Bench-kun.
I hope that it's something that we start to see more of, so perhaps more people can watch it and feel moved in these ways, because that's what I love about these animes, these films. I love feeling moved is feeling alive.
Yeah,
it's another way of feeling connected to the world, and it's just such a wonderful way to be.
It's like that the meme which constantly goes around at the end of every anime season, that feeling when you finish your show and don't know what to do with yourself.
Yes, it's like a good book, once you've finished it, what one do you read next? Are you ready to move on from the last one?
Do you just sit there feeling empty for a little while?
Well, it's also going back to the one I was talking about earlier, Angel Beats. If you go to YouTube and look at the comment section for the various pieces of music used in the anime, you'll notice a consistent sort of theme of, why do I keep coming back here? Why do I keep listening to this thing? It only makes me cry.
Yeah,
because we want to be connected to our feelings and thus to other people in the world.
Oh, so that's why I keep going back there.
That's what I think. Yay for connection. It's all about it.
Well, As the Moon's So Beautiful, Tsuki ga Kirei, you can catch it on Crunchyroll or you can buy the physical releases through Funimation.
Lovely.
That's we'll have to wrap up from there.
Kawaii-Fi.
Well, that is where we will leave things for this episode. Thanks so much for joining us.
I didn't shed a single tear.
No, not one. Not one, I
You're
swear.
fine.
I'm not crying. Shut up.
You're
You're crying.
Next episode, we're looking at otaku anime, and it's all about anime that explores otaku culture. So whether that's anime, gaming, or cosplay culture, or even idol culture, which is
still, it's still weird to me.
It's still weird. There's one airing at the moment. We'll be talking about that at the start of next episode because it's amazing, but so strange.
I'm determined to understand this context.
So am I.
That's the only thing that's missing, just the context. Now, if you've enjoyed listening, make sure you like and subscribe to get our latest episodes straight to your device.
And don't forget to head over to our Instagram, Facebook pages for more anime news and videos.
Yes, and pictures of cats with,
we won't make
Cubone
you
skulls
cry.
on them and stuff like that.
Yeah,
We'll
cute.
put up nice things.
Well,
we
nice
promise.
things.
We
Not bad
need
things.
happy things after this.
Yes.
After this,
Yeah.
I'm going to go watch Eurocamp again, I think, and just sit there and go,
Oh, yep.
Yes.
I'm sitting out for that, yes.
Well, there's Room Camp as well. We could watch that too.
I'll make some tea.
I'll make some tea. I'll make some biscuits.
Perfect.
Yes!
Anyone got a hot pot? You've been
guy.
listening to Kawaii-Fi Radio. Thank you for listening and joining us. And until next time, watch some anime.